Okay, it's recording. So I am going to hand over to Sarah now. We're going to have a 20-minute presentation from Sarah or thereabouts, and then we've left around about half an hour for questions, discussions, things like that, which hopefully we can make full use of. So I'll hand over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Dave. Yes, so Heidi sends her apologies. She was really looking forward to this, but unfortunately she's been struck down with an illness, and so I am her understudy. So Heidi prepared this presentation, and she actually has delivered it at the Asia for Animals conference last year. But it's something that is so ingrained in our whole team. I feel like everything she says in this presentation is exactly the same way I feel and exactly the things that we do. So hopefully I will be able to do as good a job as Heidi would have, because she's amazing. I'm actually, Heidi's the Bear and Vet Team Director of our Animals Asia Tam Dao Rescue Centre in Vietnam. So we're just about an hour north of Hanoi. We currently have got 198 bears that we have rescued from the bear bile trade or the pet trade. So we've got 13 Malayan sun bears and 185 Asiatic black bears or moon bears. And our team on site, including office staff and security and maintenance, all the things that makes a sanctuary run, we're about 100 people. So my name's Sarah. I'm a Kiwi, in case you can't understand my accent very well. If you need me to slow down, just let me know as well. Sometimes I talk a bit fast. I'm the Senior Bear Team Manager, so I report to Heidi, but I oversee our behavioural husbandry team. So I look after the people who look after the bears. So this whole topic is really close to my heart as well. So I'm going to share my screen. And I have a presentation for you guys that Heidi has made. So if someone can just let me know that you can see this.
Anyone? Yeah, we can see that. I can anyway. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So the presentation is almost our sanctuary mantra, which is that happy people mean happy bears. And so why caring for animals means we need to care for our staff. So it's my pleasure to be here today and share our insights on a topic so near and dear to my heart, the intersection of caring for animals and caring for each other. I can't help but think of a Vietnamese proverb I have learned during my time in the region. Thương noi như thể thương thân. This translates to love others as we love ourselves. For me, it's a powerful reminder of human kindness and empathy. However, as caregivers who dedicate our lives to animal welfare and conservation, it's easy to overlook the importance of extending that same kindness to each other. We give and we give and we give. It can feel like a luxury to prioritize our own well-being or to support our fellow caregivers, and yet we must. Our work at Animals Asia is defined by our mantra, kindness in action. Since 1998, we have been devoted to ending bear bile farming in Vietnam and China and improving the welfare of animals across Asia while promoting compassion and respect for all animals and working to bring about long-term change. In short, people are the driving force behind our mission at Animals Asia, and it is crucial that we prioritize the well-being of our staff to achieve our organizational goals. That's certainly true of our team on the ground in Vietnam. So today, if you remember nothing else, I hope it's this. There is a profound connection between happy people and happy animals. How we care for one another is intrinsically linked to caring for our animals. We have lived this truth firsthand at our organization. The past years have seen unprecedented challenges like COVID-19. It is no easy feat to keep showing up each day and delivering when it feels like the world outside is falling apart. Burnout is real. when there's always another animal to help. That's why Animals Asia has made it a priority to maintain the well-being of our staff. During the pandemic, we doubled down on our people-focused approaches at our Vietnam Bear Rescue Centre, and it led to some of our greatest successes. So how did we do it? One of our key priorities has been investing in the learning and development of our team. Our Vietnamese veterinary internship program, pictured here, is one example. By bringing in newly graduated or early career Vietnamese veterinarians and providing them with rigorous clinical and theoretical instruction, we have produced exceptional veterinarians who are now some of the best bear veterinarians in the country. Our cooperative care training, significant percentage. I have over 30 team members trained in cooperative care, working with over 35 bears to learn advanced behaviours, from measuring blood pressure to taking x-rays, all with the bear's voluntary consent. There was a time when only 2 to 3 people on our staff could do this, so investing in our team skills has exponentially improved our ability to help the bears in our care. Through initiatives like these, we don't only increase our long-term capacity to help animals, we invest in the long-term development of the local workforce in Vietnam. Another priority, we set out to implement a culture of gratitude with a focus on wins, no matter how small. And don't just take my word for it that this is a good idea. Research has shown that a focus on gratitude and positive aspects of our work can foster optimism among our teams. Scientific research shows it also directly affects the welfare experienced by the animals in our care. One small step we took to cultivate gratitude within our team, we introduced a gratitude bear. It's simply a plastic jar in the shape of a bear that's stuck to the wall in our office in a highly visible location. And over the month, members of our team leave anonymous notes of gratitude inside. They can be about anything: exceptional performance of a colleague, progress made by the rescued bears we're rehabilitating, even the weather. At the end of the month, these are typed up and circulated to the team. We started this in 2019 and it's been going ever since. It's part of our team lore at this point. It works because it's simple and it retrains our focus on all the good we achieve, regardless of setbacks. Throughout the pandemic, we implemented measures to protect the well-being of our staff, considering both logistical and psychological changes. We made contingency plans early on and created modified sanctuary routines to ensure uninterrupted operations. We also provided our staff with the necessary resources to stay protected from diseases like COVID-19 and translated important information like the WHO recipe for hand sanitizer so local authorities could make their own in the face of supply shortages. We also made open communication a priority and established an employee assistance program to provide psychological support during these challenging times. The purpose-driven nature of the animal welfare and conservation sector naturally attracts compassionate and driven individuals. This isn't a line of work that attracts people focused on building wealth. No one gets rich saving animals. On the contrary, a lot more have probably invested their life savings into it. But you know, and I know, we do it because we care and because it matters. I've lost count of how many of our colleagues have told me that they have wanted to do this type of work since they were children. Our organisations are vehicles through which people can fulfil their desire to make the world a better place. We're lucky to have the chance to marry our labour with passion. We're lucky to go to work each day and get to play a small part in making the world a better place. By harnessing this sense of purpose, we can cultivate high team engagement. Animals Asia's relentless focus on our mission has allowed us to remain agile and adaptable, even in the face of delayed rescues during the pandemic. I'm proud that we have rescued 51 bears since the pandemic's beginning and continue to stride forwards towards ending bear farming in Vietnam. We've seen a profound impact in caring for the animals in our sanctuary by maintaining high morale and a positive work culture, and the science supports that outcome. The journal Animals published a paper last year that showed how compassion fatigue can negatively impact caregivers and animals. Taking an in-depth look at fatigue amongst chimpanzee caregivers, the paper argues that counselling and specialised training are needed in order to help caregivers cope. But that's not all. A 2019 paper from Applied Animal Behaviour Science found that positive relationships between elephant keepers and elephants in North American zoos promote welfare for both. Keeper-elephant bonds have operational and effective benefits, making it easier to manage and care for the animals, while also providing emotional rewards for keepers and elephants. The key takeaway we should remember: recognizing and prioritizing the emotional well-being of caregivers is crucial for improving animal welfare outcomes whenever we're caring for animals in captive environments. I'm sure the vast majority of leaders will no doubt agree with what I'm saying. Of course, we all want to do right by our people. Yet it's hard to take that sentiment and translate it into concrete action. The unfortunate reality is that people in our sector tend to experience high levels of stress and burnout due to the demanding nature of our work. As managers and leaders, it is our responsibility to lead by example and prioritise the well-being of our staff. By addressing this issue head-on, we can create a positive change within our organisations and inspire others in our sector to follow suit. And by the way, that's not just the responsibility of managers. Each and every one of us, regardless of our position, can contribute to workplaces which care for people. We can model best practices in self-care and care for others, advocate for employee wellbeing initiatives, and foster a culture of compassion and support. Leadership can come from any position within an organisation, and by taking proactive steps to prioritise the wellbeing of our staff, we can create a ripple effect of positive change. By caring for our staff, we not only improve their individual well-being, but also contribute to the overall mission of creating a kinder and safer world for animals. As I mentioned earlier, our sector attracts purpose-driven individuals who are deeply committed to our cause. When our staff members feel engaged, supported, and valued, they bring their best selves to work, positively impacting the animals in our care. Moreover, investing in the learning and development of our team not only enhances their skills and knowledge, it also improves our impact for animals. At Animals Asia, we believe that where capacity exists, development programs in Vietnam should be Vietnamese-led. After all, it's our Vietnamese staff with unrivaled influence and connection in their local communities who can go on to be agents of massive change for animal welfare in Vietnam. It is working hand in glove with them that we are taking decisive steps to end bear bile farming, and we're also fundamentally changing the face of animal welfare in Vietnam. In short, people are key. When I think about all our successes as an organisation, from our official and sole partnership with the Vietnamese government to end bear bile farming in Vietnam, to the first time a rescue bear sets paws onto grass, none of it could happen without our people. Our people are our most valuable asset as an organisation. I'm grateful above all that we have been able to save those 51 bears. The Jewish faith has a saying, whoever saves one life saves the world entire. I think of one bear in particular who had endured 14 long years of captivity on a farm. Her story could have ended there. But at the height of the pandemic, our team travelled to Gia Lai province, where she was being held, fueled by a shared sense of compassion to get her to safety. Just as we were on the verge of reaching her, we received a quiet heads up from the authorities. The province was about to be thrown into lockdown. If we didn't leave immediately, our team would be trapped, unable to return to the sanctuary and unable to rescue her. It was a heartbreaking moment for all of us. We were within mere hours of seeing her free. Despite that setback, we refused to be discouraged. Instead of dwelling on the disappointment of returning home empty-handed, We channeled our energy forward and held on to the belief that one day we would succeed. To keep her spirit alive in our hearts, we lovingly nicknamed her Cotton Blossom, after the trees that thrive in our sanctuary. In honor of the bear we couldn't rescue, we planted a cotton blossom tree, a symbol of hope, perseverance, and the unwavering commitment we held to her rescue. Months passed, and then the day we had been dreaming of arrived. We finally succeeded in bringing Cotton Blossom home to our sanctuary. For 3 years now, she has been living among us, surrounded by care, love, and the freedom she so richly deserves. Her presence serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience of these incredible animals and the tenacity and courage of our people. Even in the darkest of times, hope can prevail. Our work matters. We can't necessarily save each and every animal, and that's a great loss. But what we do matters to each one that we can save. And in the process, we can tap into our own sense of purpose, our own hopes, and maybe save one another. So let's recommit ourselves to well-being. Let's rededicate ourselves to building workplaces and workplace cultures that are safe, nurturing, and inspiring. It is our responsibility to recognize the vital connection between happy people and happy animals. Together, let us continue to build a kinder future for both the animals and the dedicated individuals who work tirelessly to protect and care for them. I will not leave you with a short video because it's lagging, but I hope that you enjoy it when you do get to watch it.
That's great.
Thank you.
Oh, no, that's brilliant. No, sorry, I thought the video was going to start then. That's great. So if you guys, if anyone has any questions, obviously they can ask them, but if they can type them in the chat, and I'm reading those, and Olga can check those too, so we can do that too. I
also wanted to add in a couple of things.
Oh, sorry.
Like, this is Heidi's presentation, but so I used to work in a zoo in New Zealand, and there are a couple of things that I find we do here that's very different to my zoo environment that also, I think, really help people. And one of them is we are really strict about break times and leaving on time. I can't even, like, in my zoo that I worked in, I probably 90% of the time was leaving work at least half an hour late, an hour late, an hour and a half late, just to get everything done. But where we are now, we're absolutely encouraged that your day finishes at 6, you leave at 6. And even something just so small like that is actually encouraging your staff to take their lunch breaks, to leave on time. Like, every time I bring in a new expat bear team manager, they're like, oh my gosh, wait, we finish on time? We don't work over lunch? You know, like, just small things like that are amazing. And then the other thing that I really like, and obviously is not always possible, is Animals Asia is very pet friendly. And so as long as, you know, your dogs really, your dogs are vaccinated and all up to date, dewormed, defleed, everything, we can bring our dogs to work in the office with us and have them hanging out, which I always think is, you know, we can't be hands-on with the animals, and having that hands-on cuddle time, you know, patting a dog when you're feeling a bit stressed, I think that's really empowering for people as well, and that really helps with mental health. So those are a couple of other things that Heidi doesn't mention, but when she told me about this talk, those were two things that struck me as something that I had never really thought about until I came here, but are hugely positive.
That's great. Thank you. Somebody has put David, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for a very interesting talk, and also very interesting that this is something that you have integrated in your total work, because we can definitely see that human welfare is one of the biggest things that we need to take care of, because it's difficult to find the right people, and once we have them, we have to be careful to keep them. I was wondering if you if you've ever used tools to measure the welfare of your staff. So I could imagine that, for instance, sick leave would be one of those things you would notice, or the duration of stay, or did you see any changes over time with the instruments that you introduced? I was wondering.
She's frozen. She's
Yeah,
back.
our especially since we started doing a lot of the capacity building work, our turnover. Sorry, am I back?
The
You're
connection
back.
is pretty bad. Yeah.
I think you're back now.
Yeah, great question. One of the things we've noticed is the turnover of especially all of the teams has improved a lot. It was a pretty good turnover anyway, especially in the sort of animal care world, but you know, it's the turnover now is really, really low. And one of the things that Heidi does is twice a year, she sends out a staff survey. So it asks about everything: your relationship with your team, your relationship with your manager, how you feel about your workspace, if you feel you get recognized enough, if you feel you are supported. Like, it asks a bunch of questions, and then we as the senior team sit down and kind of analyze that and analyze those trends over time. And if we notice any changes, you know, obviously we jump in and start addressing whatever that is. But at the same time, like, you know, we get comments and people can sort of say whatever they want because it's anonymous. And yeah, I think that's really good as well. A really easy tool to see what's actually bothering your team.
Mm.
And can you also tell anything about, because for instance, what I see within your organization, I mean, you will also definitely have the clash of cultures there. So there's expats working there, there's local staff working in your sanctuary, as we've seen in the pictures. Do they respond differently to the different tools that you introduce?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, it's true. Some of the you know, some of the things we do, like the gratitude bear, it took the Vietnamese team a while to sort of get that, to understand that it's not really how their culture works or gives feedback or anything. They're very much, Vietnamese people are very much about maintaining harmony all the time, and not so much the kind of open praise and excitement and, you know, some of the fluffy stuff that we Westerners might like. So it does take them a while to get used to, and it's the different things have kind of worked in different ways. I would say that you know, there's some of the things that have been really powerful for the Vietnamese team is actually opening those doors and providing all these extra opportunities and training and skills and things that they were interested in, because I guess historically maybe they didn't think that that was so much of an option for them, but then we're like, oh no, you know, here, let's do this, or they thought they'd never be able to do something like that, and, you know, prove them wrong, because they can do it, absolutely. And I think it's also really meaningful, you know, the work that we do for the community, in that, you know, during COVID, we did make and give out hand sanitizer. We did translate things into Vietnamese and make sure that they got out not just to the staff, but to the community, because a lot of our staff, all of our staff are just very local. They don't come from far away. They're all in the villages close to us. And so they're basically all one big community. They're all neighbors, they're all cousins, they're all brothers, and, you know, they're all married to each other. Like, they're very, very like one unit. And so actually helping not just our sanctuary staff, but those in the village around us has also been really good.
Can I ask one more question? And then I will hand over to others. Because one of the things that that I've seen during my career is that it's also difficult to cope with disappointments. So disappointments on all kind of levels, but especially if you're working with animals that you truly care for, the disappointments can really hit in heavily. So you have done everything you could for an animal, but still that can sometimes not be enough. Did you ever?
Sorry, you broke up a bit.
Oh, sorry. So I was saying that the compassion fatigue that you were talking about in the beginning, I think you're frozen again. Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear it or not? Or is it?
Yeah, we're back. We're back good now.
Oh, we're back again. Yeah. So good news for the Vietnamese connections. No, so how do you deal with the big disappointments that you encounter when you're truly caring for animals? The things that you try, but still you don't succeed, or the animals that you cannot save. Did you introduce any tools for that, or any methods to deal with those kind of troubles?
Yeah. So I guess one of the things to also understand is that in Vietnam, euthanasia is not done, but it's not common, it's not talked about. And so bear losses are, and especially bear euthanasias, is something that we have had to sort of work a lot with the team on. And initially that just started with really open communication. So, you know, this is what's wrong with this bear, this is what we've tried, this is our options left, this is our concerns about welfare, and asking them what they thought and helping them to understand that, like, while it wasn't necessarily going to be a consensus decision, that they had the power to speak up and say what they believed and ask the questions that they had. And so, yeah, the communication was really important. And then one of our rituals is actually a funeral. So we hold a funeral for each bear. They're buried in our graveyard. We have a poem, and that poem is read in English and Vietnamese for the bears. So the teams get a chance to say goodbye. You know, they put things in the grave like the bear's favorite food, they leave flowers. And then also we have our employee assistance program. So every time there is something hard, something emotional, we make sure that they're reminded that that service is there, so that if they're not comfortable talking to their family, their friends, their colleagues, their managers, that they can talk to someone externally through their employee assistance program. And again, we do a lot, we check in a lot, we just make sure that they understand. That's probably the most important thing, is that understanding. Making sure they understand, and also making sure they understand that we're all here for them, and that any emotion they want to express is fine. You know, some people cry, some people don't, and some people want to go to the funerals and some people don't. And just, you know, really being open with them that, you know, however they're feeling is fine, and just to, you know, talk to someone if they need to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? I've got some questions, but before I ask any, has anybody else got any questions or comments? No, I mean, one of the things I was wondering about that talk was, it made it very clear about adopting that culture, essentially, of making it clear to everyone that they're valued. Is there anything that Animals Asia, either at your sanctuary or as an organisation, has in terms of policies about staff conditions, the more kind of you know, the real sort of black and white stuff about pay, holiday, maternity leave, things like that, that you try and sort of meet the average, go above the average for the country, and how do you manage those sorts of things?
I would definitely say that Animals Asia goes above what's required.
Oh, we've lost you.
So awkwardly, it's, oh, sorry. Am I back?
You're back, yeah. There's a bit of a lag, but
Am I
that's
back
fine.
again?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So our staff are technically employed by 2 different countries in Vietnam. So the expatriates are employed by Hong Kong and go by Hong Kong laws, and the Vietnamese staff are paid and go by Vietnam labor laws. So each kind of route has its own handbook, and they go above and beyond what's you know, what the, I guess, general rules and laws and regulations are. For example, we have a day, we get a day of leave if we adopt an animal. So if I go out and adopt a dog, I get a day of annual leave with my dog, my new dog. The sick leave and everything, it's all laid out, and it all meets or exceeds what the regulations are. One of the difficult things is, making sure that the employees get all their leave or take all their leave. I don't know about you guys, animal care industry, it's really hard to take leave, or sometimes people don't want to take leave, but that's something that is really important for people's mental health and getting time to rest and relax and recharge. So we have a policy where so we get a certain number of annual leave days a year. So say I get 20 days of annual leave a year, then if I haven't taken half those days during the year, I can only carry over 10 to the next year. So it's really trying to say, you need to use at least 10 days of leave each year, or you're going to lose it. So it's kind of trying to encourage people at least take 10 days. And then the following year, you actually only have till June, end of June, to finish taking your carried over leave. So they're really trying to encourage people to actually take that leave.
Right. And I had another question in terms of, the traditional, and I hope most organizations do what I'm about to talk about, but the traditional kind of staff appraisal approach is, let's sit down and talk about what you as a staff member have done and achieved. And that's obviously changed a lot in recent times. And we've had, you can have either a two-way appraisal so that the staff member gets to say how they feel they've been treated, and also go as far as doing sort of 360 assessments. So colleagues get to give feedback to each other, and it starts to feel a little bit more leveled out rather than very much focused on, checking up on staff. I wonder, is that something that Animals Asia do?
Yes. So I really like our appraisal system. What we have is a form, and it has 3 parts. So the first part is basically the job description, and the form is given to the staff member, and the job description and the elements from that are listed down one side. And then on the other side, the staff member goes through and writes how they've fulfilled those things of the job description, or where they think they can do better. And then we sit down and we have a conversation about it, and we might add things. Nothing's ever a surprise. So, if we're going to add something that's maybe more critical, it's something we've talked about in the past. But often it's us adding things like, hey, you did really well when that happened. And so that's sort of the first part, is that how are you meeting the job description, or where do you need support to improve or learn a bit more. Then the second part, we have goals. So we sit down with them and we make goals for the next year. So the goals might be something that has come up in the first part of the appraisal, or, you know, it might be something that the person's just really interested in. And the goals are always directly linked to their job description. And then the third part is it's called items. And that's basically about career development and their long-term goals. So in that section, we can create items that are something they want to work towards that's not in their job necessarily. So say a bear carer wants to learn how to make up medications with the vet team. Great, do that. And it's a space for them to talk about their long-term goals, even if it's not with Animals Asia. And so that we can get an idea of where they want to go in their career, what they want to do, and if there's anything on the way that we can do to support them. Because, you know, if we can support them, yeah, that's great. It, you know, builds their confidence, builds their happiness, but also usually with their goals, it's something that's also going to be beneficial to us, to the bears. So it's really a chance to get to know them. And I've found that since we've changed to this system, our appraisal meetings are so much more interesting. The team is so much more open with us. They just want to, you know, tell us what's going on. They want to tell us what they're excited about, what they want to do. And it actually leads to some really great conversations and uncovers some really cool hidden skills and talents that people have.
Great. And then, yeah, just one other question, and see whether you've experienced this or maybe others on the call. If there's an issue there with new staff, people new to the world of animal welfare and captive care. You mentioned earlier that people often want to do this from a very young age. And I've definitely seen this in the past, where you have this almost like a clash of expectations between new young people coming into this field of work and then hitting the reality of what it's really like. And then you have these seasoned, maybe slightly kind of compassion fatigued members of staff who've been there 20 years. Do you find there's ever kind of any disconnect there and that you have to deal with, the kind of the young, bright, enthusiastic, optimistic person, and then the person who's been doing it all these years who's a little bit perhaps jaded, or, you know, does that ever come about? Because I've definitely seen that in my career. I think there's a lag.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit different here, though, in that for our bear care team, at least, um,
Sorry, guys. I think we're losing a bit of connection here. I'm going to wait and see if it catches back up. But if anyone else has any comments on that particular point, then let me know and see if we can get Sarah back.
Oh.
Sarah, are you back?
Yeah.
We didn't get any of the
yeah,
I think you got my question, but we didn't get any of the answer.
Great. Yeah, sorry. True story. We have underground internet cables, right, going through the sea, and they're often interfered with by sharks. So I'm going to blame the sharks. Yes. So you were asking about sort of young, excited people coming in versus potentially compassion fatigue, more experienced people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of my team of bear carers, that doesn't happen as much because in Vietnam, the animal care sort of profession, or, you know, looking after animals isn't yet kind of a desired career so much. It's not like it's not like it is back in, you know, New Zealand or Australia, where you're just like, yes, oh my gosh, I got a zookeeper job, this is amazing. It's not the same here. But what changes is, you know, once they've been here a while and they see the opportunities and the care we take for them and everything, that definitely flicks things around. But here I have seen that a few times. So one example was we had a young Vietnamese woman come in. She was training as a bear team manager, and she was, yeah, definitely extremely excited, really keen to do everything, and wanted to run before she could walk. So sort of for her, that kind of involved just slowing things down and having a lot of conversations with her about, you know, why we do things the way we do and why we stage things in different ways and what's really important and things like that. And then kind of the other time I've seen it is in our veterinary intern program, where, you know, you've got our, you know, vets and vet nurses who initially were employed to do a vet nursing or vet job. But since we started the internship program, have had to really pivot and start to become, you know, teachers and trainers a lot more than they might have initially expected. And so what was really important during that whole phase is, again, just really open communication and people having a chance to give feedback on what worked for them and what didn't work for them, and you know, sort of being able to come together and realize that, you know, our jobs are changing, and it's really exciting that they're changing, because we're basically training people to do us out of a job, which is, you know, the goal. But at the same time, you know, those staff, it's really hard. You know, you want to be doing your job, and it was really about teaching people that their success didn't just come from what they did, but from what those that they taught did. You know, really getting them to believe in that their successes are, you know, their intern successes, and that really is that's just the culture now. That's just what it is. Yeah. But definitely we've had a lot of, you know, meetings, just our expat team, say, who've had these big job changes, or, you know, we've just lots of open communication. It's just super important.
Yep. Great. We've got a few minutes left. Has anyone got any questions or comments? Obviously, feel free to drop me an email as well if you have any questions later that we can maybe send on. But Liv from De Zonneglod, you're on, your microphone's off.
Hello, I have one question. Do you have experience with a staff member who is quite a few years in the job and doesn't realize himself that he is not enthusiastic anymore, that the job isn't good anymore for him, and then projects this and thinks it's all the work that is bad? It's not his expectations that are changed or have changed, but that the whole staff is like influenced by like a rotten apple. But they, yeah, I don't know if you understand what I mean. Yeah.
No, I do. Yes, but I guess the case I'll talk about, one of our senior Vietnamese bear team members, he is very stuck in his ways, you know, not great with change, and really unhappy if things didn't go his way. And so that in turn then sort of affected morale or attitudes of other people. And so what I did with him was more like trying to get him to buy into the new ways or the new things. And for him, he just wants to prove that he's good at his job and that he's good at doing his job, and because he loves this place, but he doesn't love change. So trying to manage him through change I kind of had to, you know, maybe give him specific projects, or I talked to him a lot about how, you know, he was a very important member of our team, and, you know, that it's really crucial that he, you know, joins and has open conversations with us. And that one of the things that he would do for me is question me a lot after we've discussed something and then decided to do it, and then he would come back and question me in front of the wider team. So, you know, I did have to pull him aside and talk to him about that, and just say, you know, like, let's set up a regular meeting so I can make sure that you and I have communicated and that we're both on the same page and I've addressed all your concerns. Because I think one of his big concerns was that, you know, his ideas wouldn't be listened to, or he wouldn't, his opinion wouldn't be heard or anything. And so I worked with him a lot on understanding that we always listen to his opinion, but just because his idea isn't selected, it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means that this time someone else's idea is training.
Mm-hmm.
And we also work with him a lot on letting things go. Jobs that he'd always done for years and years and years, you know, he really didn't want to share that job with anyone else or have anyone else do it, because it felt like we were taking things away from him. So I made sure that instead I kind of, at the same time I got him to train someone else on something that he did, I would train him on something else new, so that he kind of realized that it's not about taking things away from him, but it's about making sure, and especially this happened a lot during COVID time, making sure that it wasn't just one person that was the only one that could do that job, that we needed to sort of future-proof our team so that, you know, if he came down with COVID or something, someone else knew how to do what he can do. Yeah, it was just really for him a lot about kind of trying to understand his motives, because he wasn't trying to be stubborn and difficult. It was, I think he was just a bit scared of what was going on, and I hadn't addressed his concerns properly. So he's amazing now, fantastic, really good. Right. But it was hard work.
Thank you. We are now just over time, but if anyone's got any last questions, then great. If not, has anyone got any questions? If you raise your hand on here, then we can cover that off. Jolien?
Yes, hi. I do have one question. I'm not sure if you work a lot with volunteers, but that's one of the struggles that we see here, is like we work with a lot of volunteers, so it's a constant change of people that we work with. So like you already said, you can have people coming in with a lot of new energy, a lot of new questions, new inputs, but also of course all the same struggles every time over and over again, which is very demanding for our keepers, and it can really be hard for them. I don't know if there is a way that you guys deal with this to keep the keepers motivated to actually train every time the new volunteers.
Yeah, we actually don't have volunteers. We did for a little while, but because our focus really turned to building up the capacity of the Vietnamese staff, we put our volunteer program aside. So I'm sorry, I can't really help with that. All I have is how we train our new staff, is that there's a really specific detailed checklist. And I guess for me, if I was thinking about training volunteers, I'd kind of try and get the keepers buy-in by asking them what things would help you the most. Like, what things could these volunteers do to support you in your job, and get them to sort of buy in that way, so that they can train them, you know, on some of the other stuff as well, but they're also training them to take on something that takes the weight off themselves, is kind of like a trade-off. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know, maybe you do that already, but that's all I can think of.
Yes,
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jolien. Any other questions or comments before we conclude the webinar? No? Okay, well, we'll definitely be sending the recording of this out, and something I'm very keen to do after any webinar that we have if it's appropriate, is to try and just bring anything together that might be useful for EARS partners into one place. So we might, maybe Sarah, get in touch with you and Heidi, and for example, see if we can see a template example of your staff appraisals that you mentioned, the 3-stage appraisal. That could be a really useful thing to share, and similar things like that. And then, you know, start to make that available to partners as well. So we'll definitely be following up on this, and as well as just sending the actual recording, and we'll send your video as well.
Yes.
So, but I think, given we're pretty much out of time, I think we'll leave it there and say a huge thank you to Sarah for stepping in. And oh, one last comment from Olga as well.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you, Sarah. It was really, really interesting presentation. I found it. I learned a lot. And to also thank Anne-Sophie to come up with the idea while in the EARS meeting, that she said that it was a good presentation. And thanks for that.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. And yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. And thank you, everyone, for coming. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.